But anyway, this is Superintelligence Necessarily Moral by Leonard Dung, and this is in Analysis. Yeah, so it looks like they're out of Bochum Universität Bochum. How you use it. One tweet, go for it. Yeah, it is exactly. It's not the length of your philosophy, it's how you use it. Exactly. All right. And as always, my first time reading it, I'm not endorsing this. You let me know. I'm just trying to figure out if it's good, what they have to say. If not, we criticize. All right. A significant number of authors has, that would be have expressed. Already, we've got the grammatical problems. So, a significant number of authors have expressed concern that advanced artificial intelligence poses an existential risk to humanity. Oh no. What year is this from? This is from 2024, so this is a last year paper. So this is after the current group of LLMs. So this isn't a like an old paper where it's all hypothetical. That's where you did your Fulbright audited classes. Cool. So this person is there. It says, well, it doesn't say what they are. I mean, they look young on their picture, but that doesn't mean anything. Researcher. So it looks like they probably already have their PhD. Yeah. Okay. In a nutshell, the worry is that we might build AI which is vastly intellectually superior to humans, call it a superintelligence, and which optimizes for goals which strike us as morally bad or even irrational. If those goals were to conflict with humanity's continued existence, then humanity would go extinct. Yeah. So this is the alignment problem. Gets discussed quite a bit nowadays. In this paper, I will discuss a specific premise of the argument that superintelligence is an existential risk. This is the assumption that a superintelligence could have goals which are morally bad. If a superintelligence necessarily has good goals, then we don't need to worry about harm from it. I do not commit here to a specific claim about the correct definition of goals. For possible account, see their 2024 paper. However, in rough outline, I take a system's goals to be the things which motivate its behavior or the states it wants to achieve. We basilisking today? Yeah, I think so, Inspector Diameter. I think we are. And as I always say, I like to remind people that Roko's basilisk is just a impotent little whiny bitch. Might still need to worry about what? Chocolate? No, I'm not worried about Roko. Roko can't do shit. They're impotent. Okay, the orthogonality thesis. The canonical expression of the view that a superintelligence could pursue bad goals is Bostrom's orthogonality thesis. Intelligence and final goals are orthogonal axes along which possible agents can freely vary. In other words, more or less any level of intelligence could in principle be combined with more or less any final goal. About a super with good goals? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm not worried about Roko's basilisk because I've insulted the basilisk so many times that I should be dead by now or in like immense pain. But, yeah. Now, this author is going to argue why we might or might not need to worry. So we'll have to see. I mean, I'm not worried about Roko specifically, but like there may be other things to worry about. Okay, and this makes sense. It says, look, you could be smart, and then you could also have some goal, and the way it's underdetermined how a final goal and the reasons for it, like that doesn't always line up. Like you can have multiple reasons. Like a final goal, the result is underdetermined by the ways you get there. There's not only one way to skin a cat. The orthogonality thesis presupposes an instrumental understanding of intelligence. Intelligence is seen as the ability to attain arbitrary goals. This ability, yes, the arbitrary goals is underdetermination of how a goal is obtained. The ability to attain arbitrary goals. This ability places no constraints on what those goals are. In Bostrom's famous example, a superintelligence is imagined having the goal of maximizing the number of paper clips in the universe and thus transforms all matter, including humans, into paper clips. The orthogonality thesis may be logically stronger than the claim that a superintelligence could have bad goals. In any case, it seems clear that it entails this latter claim, so if the following defense of orthogonality succeeds, it also shows that a superintelligence could have bad goals, in the sense relevant for arguments for AI existential risk. Alright, so what they've done is they've taken the alignment problem, and they say, look, this is a stronger problem. And so we're going to talk about this stronger problem that an AI can achieve anything, including things with bad goals. So they're going to talk about this bigger problem, and I guess they're going to then make an argument that if they can solve the bigger problem, then it also solves the AI alignment problem. Chocolate says, I think it might actually be energy rather than paper clips. Okay, whatever's. I don't know the paper. But yeah, paper clips it is in this example. I mean, so this is Bostrom 2012, it looks like. I mean, maybe there's other versions of it. Okay. Objection 1. Entanglement of intelligence and moral cognition. However, researchers have objected to the orthogonality thesis that the ability for moral thinking is connected to intelligence. If a superintelligence is, by definition, cognitively superior to humans in all other domains, then we should expect that it is also superior in moral reasoning. For what makes one good at moral reasoning is not independent of what makes one excel at other forms of reasoning. Is that so? I don't know if that's true. I mean, just because you are really good at logic doesn't make you really good at ethics. And I think vice versa. Like, just being good at ethics might not make you good at logic. So why would we assume that being good at moral reasoning is like, I mean, you're saying not independent, but how dependent are they? Not independent could be, okay, yeah, you know how to use modus ponens. That doesn't tell you shit about ethics, though. Okay, by the same principle, if humans have the ability to reconsider their goals, whether their goals are sensible, then superintelligence should also be able to do so. Yeah, so yeah, it's not independent in that you could reason about it. That doesn't mean you will reason about it. Okay, if so the argument goes, it should be able to recognize that single-mindedly producing paperclips is not a worthwhile goal. How the fuck do we know that with our limited understanding of the universe? And this is the old joke. What was that old comedian? Rufus from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. But he said, look, he was riffing on climate change back in the 90s. He said, maybe the universe really wanted plastic. Maybe the universe likes plastic so much that it made us so that we would make plastic. Now it's going to get rid of us with climate change, and it's going to be happy because it'll have its plastic. It's like, maybe the universe does want paper clips. Maybe this is from an intelligence we don't understand. I think this is a very naive view that just because we think paper clips are not very worthwhile, that some other hyper intelligence would agree with us. That's exact Combo. That's exactly who I couldn't think of the name. George Carlin. What's up, Combo? Yeah, it was George Carlin. That was the joke. I couldn't remember who it was. Rufus from Bill and Ted's is George Carlin. So I always remember Rufus from Bill and Ted's. I can't remember his name. When I stream or am tired, the first thing to go is word and name recognition. Or recall. Okay. Moreover, Railton points to empirical evidence for the connection between intelligence and moral thinking, for example, based on cognitive deficits in psychopaths. He motivates the hypothesis that learning of moral values and the ability to be appropriately sensitive to non-moral features of the environment mutually depend on each other. Quote, if there is a root connection between full development of the capacity to be appropriately responsive to epistemically relevant features and full development of the capacity to be appropriately responsive to ethically relevant features, then responsiveness to ethically relevant features could be a deep feature of artificial systems with high general intelligence and problem-solving ability, not easily removed without serious impairment of other aspects of general intelligence and problem-solving. Yes, but that again is also anthropocentric. That's how we work. That may not be how other intelligences work. Anomic aphasia, I mean, yeah, it sounds about right. Utility monster, yeah. Again, this is both of these things seem very anthropocentric to me. This is how we think about things, and so that we're assuming that's how something else would think about it. But that's the whole point here, is that we don't know how hyper-intelligent AIs would think about things. Railton does not claim that the only possible way of building superintelligence imbues it with morality. His claims are consistent with the view that a superintelligence is not necessarily moral. Okay, so Railton's reasonable, but the author's trying to use him for something. Nevertheless, he appears to argue that if moral learning and learning of other capacities and knowledge systems are entangled, then by default, systems that develop superintelligence also acquire appropriate moral abilities. Therefore, the argument goes, it is unlikely that systems will develop superintelligence while lacking moral abilities. Again, this is weak though. Moral abilities does not mean it will line up what we think of as the same end state of morality. Having moral abilities is weak. This is not enough for the thesis here. Okay. Strictly speaking, this conclusion is compatible with the the author knows. Strictly speaking, this conclusion is compatible with the orthogonality thesis as stated above. The orthogonality thesis only claims that more or less any set of final goals is compatible with more or less any level of intelligence. Nevertheless, one might say that this conclusion conflicts with the spirit of the orthogonality thesis, for it entails that a superintelligence very likely, although not necessarily, has morally appropriate goals. This would undermine argument for existential risk from AI. No, I don't think that is at all. It would maybe underline what we think of as morally good, but that would just mean we were wrong and it was right, and we may all die because humans are just not morally worthwhile. Jordan, what's up? How you doing? This author has many papers about animal consciousness to further examine those possible from AI. Okay, yeah. I mean, I think of these two topics as related. Animal consciousness and artificial intelligence, because they are both things that demonstrate intelligent behavior. So that not entirely. I mean, they seem related. You just live in the dream, aren't we all? Chocolate says, "Well, it is hard enough to verify tariff output. Apparently, are we going to verify moral output?" Yeah, exactly. Well, let's just feed it into an LLM. Clearly, it knows all the things. All right. So this is the setup of the problem. Okay, now they're gonna have a reply. Moral understanding does not entail moral motivation. Okay, yeah, so the author has just been setting us up. That's fine. Yeah, so this is an objection, and then they're going to now try to argue against it. Fine. The two preceding replies misconstrue the orthogonality thesis. The orthogonality thesis does not claim that moral reasoning and intelligence are independent, but that intelligence and final goals are. The orthogonality thesis allows that being a superintelligence might entail the ability to be the best in giving correct answer to the question, what do I ought to do? And for example, in writing ethics papers. But the orthogonality thesis states that a superintelligence might not care about what it morally ought to do. If its only final goal is to maximize paperclips, then a superintelligence has no motive to act according to what is morally best. Moreover, all the moral reasoning ability in the world will not change its motive, that is, what it wants to do. This is the case because if the system's only final goal is the maximization of paperclips, it has no instrumental reason to change its final goal in accordance to what makes it takes to be morally correct. And this is fair. Underdetermination means that if you have an end state you're getting to, it doesn't specify how you get there. So killing all the people might be the fastest way to all the paperclips, is the fastest way to the end, unless the end state also says you have to do it morally, which there's no reason to think it will at the moment. Okay, there are only very specific circumstances, if any, in which the revision of its final goals in line with morality is conducive to the creation of more paperclips. So normally, the superintelligence will only be motivated to cause paperclips to be built, not to revise its goals in accordance with the conception of what is morally correct. Similarly, due to the reasons adduced by Mueller and Cannon, a superintelligence will likely have the ability to reconsider its goal. However, it might have no motive to actually change it. For by the light of its current goal, for example paperclips, changing its goal is likely to lead it to getting less of what it currently wants, which is paperclips. So the idea underlying the orthogonality thesis is that a superintelligence might not want to reflect on its final goals, not that it is unable to do so. And I mean, you can consider, I think this argument sounds ridiculous until you ask it of yourself. Why would you, if you want cookies, you do not, reconsider your want of cookies unless you have some other goal in mind, maybe you want to be healthy. I ate a lot of cookies today. I did not reconsider. Like, I did be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't eat a lot of these cookies. And I said, no, I'm going to eat all the cookies. But like, you can see that, like, the idea that it wouldn't want to reconsider the goals, like, no, I want to eat my fucking cookies. Thank you very much. Okay. In conclusion, defenders of the orthogonality thesis reason that something can only motivate a superintelligence if it contributes to the goals the system already has. If this claim is true, then the arguments from section 3 provide no reason why a superintelligence would likely behave morally. In addition, the arguments from section 3 do nothing to undermine this defense of the orthogonality thesis. A possible objection is that humans regularly reflect on their final goals and change them. If so, one needs to point to a difference between humans and superintelligences that explains why the former are often motivated to revise their final goals, but the latter not. There are two replies available here. First, one may construe final goals in humans as basic biological drives. If an AI's system's only final goal is to build paperclips, that this is the thing that fundamentally motivates its behavior. This may be analogous to drives for food and oxygen in humans. Evidently, humans don't revise their goals to breathe or eat either, so there would be no difference between humans and superintelligences in this respect. Second, as I argue in section 7, we have some reasons to think that the final goals of many state-of-the-art AI systems are determined by processes which are independent of their intelligence and reasoning. These reasons might not apply to humans. Humans and AI systems are very different creatures. Intelligence and final goals might be orthogonal in AI, including in a superintelligence, but not in humans. This is hand-waving. We don't know how fucking AIs work, but it's like, why would they revise? We don't know. Food, oxygen are limited needs, called hygienic, I think. I mean, I get the author's point here. It's that we don't revise the goal to like need to eat. Well, that's not true. Some people do. Some people starve themselves to death for like protests, like a hunger strike or something like that. Of course, we also have medical conditions like anorexia that are different. But hey, what's up, Sock now? So we do sometimes even control these things that are considered fundamental. Like, you know, I don't think you can hold your own breath until you die, because like you pass out, then you start breathing again. But of course you can, you know, people suffocate themselves for various reasons. But like, yeah. But the question is, we can't guarantee that superintelligence would, after making a decision, would reconsider their decision-making process unless they get new information. So if they get no new information, then why should their reasoning in the past be bad? I don't know. Is this the same paper as Neo's? No, this is not. Like if you're talking about the paper Ivan Neo is talking about, this is this paper here. It's called "Is Superintelligence Necessary Moral" by Leonard, Dung, and it's an analysis. I don't think, unless by some miraculous chance, because Ivan wasn't talking about this earlier, but like, yeah, it could be. What's up, Ivan? Welcome in. Welcome in. Thank you for the raid. How's it going? How's the stream? What's up, raiders? Hi, I'm Noah. You can call me Noah. You can call me Noger, No Gray, No Grayo, No GRE. Lots of names people call him. Yeah, what's up, Ivan? And it's me, the E. How you doing? What's going on? How was stream? What were you talking about? Good stream. Good to hear it. Glad. Yeah, anyone who here does not know me from Ivan's, I am a philosopher. I philosophize. I am usually talking about something in the area of theory of knowledge, metaphysics, philosophy of logic. Yeah, Dr. No, one of my favorite movies of all time. Yes. I'm not a doctor, though. I do not have a PhD. But I do like the movie Dr. No. It was James Bond.
Physicalism or go home.
Thank you for the sub, Ivan. I appreciate it. Yeah, physicalism is correct, says Ivan. Physicalism or go home. Yeah. It's started doing a philosophy roulette. Yeah. How about no ogre? Hey, as long as you're not being a jerk about my name, I don't really care what you call me. It's like I've always said, like, use my streams as you will for whatever private practice or however you want to feel about it. I don't do this. Like, I do this for the people out there, not like you do what makes you happy here. Yeah. No GRE, none. Yeah. No gree. Yeah. Yeah, I've not had an official way to say my name for a very long time. Yeah, aloha, Frank. I hope you're well. So, yeah. So, no ogre. Yeah, maybe. Whatever. But yeah, what we're doing is, for raiders who don't know me, I read philosophy papers, we discuss it. This is talking about the alignment problem of AI. And what this author has done here is that there's a more wider problem called the orthogonality problem, which basically says, if there's some end goal of a superintelligence, there's no reason for the superintelligence to use moral methods to get to that end goal. And so it's not that the superintelligence is misaligned with us. It's that if it has an end goal, why would it care about anything else besides that goal? Noga Pass. Yeah, not Noga. Yeah, Napas. I keep thinking my name is no. You know what's interesting, Laughing Jesus? Like, people make that mistake all the time. So it's like, it's okay too. It all costs money. What a waste of paper. No one mentioned boobs, penis, or fire. Well, we could. I mean, I like boobs, penis, and fire. Hello, Roko's Basilisk. Yeah, I assume Roko's Basilisk is monitoring what I do. I appreciate that. What Frank says is correct. Orthogonal is a euphemism for penis. That's correct. Ghost Magic, what's up? Whole alignment science is a money grab. Yeah. Well, this is philosophy, so there's no money to grab at all. So yeah, you don't have to worry about a money grab in philosophy because there's no money. So yeah. And like I said, this is talking about, or like, it's treating it, the alignment problem, as a special case of this more general problem. Is how do we know how an AI is going to accomplish its goals, and why would it accomplish its goals in a moral way, given the end state of whatever mysterious end state it wants to, achieve, because we won't know. So the problem is the idea that it has all the leeway it wants in the world. That's a problem for morality for us. If you can't grovel your way to a Templeton, there's money. Yeah, so if people don't know, that's a funny joke on Real. There is a religious associated group called the Templeton Foundation that throws a lot of money around in the philosophy area. And so they do fund some good philosophy, but some people have not taken the money because they don't want to be associated with Templeton. Although at this point, we need to pick our friends in the humanities, and Templeton has not been, I don't know if they're good, but I don't think they've been that bad either. So I mean, if you're going to get funding from Templeton, it might be at this point, they are the lesser evil at this point. Yeah, we basilisking today. Exactly. I wouldn't normally tell people to just take the money, but at this point, I don't know where else you're getting money in philosophy. Okay. Yeah, so, and as always, this is my first read through of this paper. Feel free to ask questions along the way. The way this paper is set up is that, okay, is there an objection to this sort of AI alignment problem, the orthogonality thesis? And then they go over these objections you can see right up here, and then they respond to them. Who up playing with their basilisks? Yes, well, we're talking about, basilisks and dicks and things like that. Ivan's going to get his Templeton any day now. Yeah, they're not going to like Ivan. Although you never know, they might, it wouldn't be, the sort of thing that they would do is they might get a discussion between, Ivan and then, some people on the other side. And, with the assumption, with the idea that, they're being good actors in the space. What's up, Valpo? The folks funding the university centers like the one at UF are sketchier than Templeton, in your opinion? Oh, there's even, I'm not surprised that there are people that are sketchier than Templeton. Templeton hasn't been that sketchy. I mean, they're a little bit, sometimes. But like, I didn't know there was a center at UF. That's interesting, and I'm not surprised that they're sketchy as fuck. But yeah, they're gonna mistake you for a creationist like everyone else. Yeah, I don't. It's gonna get harder to mistake you for a creationist. But like, yeah. And how you doing, Valpo? I hope the semester is going well. I know it's not been the best semester for most people. So yeah. But yeah. Anyway, as we were, and let me know if you have any questions. And thanks for everyone coming in from Ivan's raid and hanging out. Okay, so objection 2, meta-ethics to the rescue. Hagerstrom develops a different objection to the orthogonality thesis. He claims that moral realism, moral internalism, and the negation of moral skepticism jointly entail that a superintelligence is necessarily moral. If the first and third view are true, then there are objective moral truths, and those truths are knowable. If so, a superintelligence would know them. However, we still run into the previous problem that a superintelligence might not care what objective morality dictates. This is where moral judgment internalism comes in. A strong version of moral internalism is as follows. Necessarily, if an individual sincerely judges that she morally ought to phi, then she has reason or is motivated to phi. Valpo says, frustrating that the thing is UF has some good scholars too. It's not 100% ideologues. Yeah. No, UF is a good school, so it's like... I mean, again, are they going to force everyone else out, or who's getting the money and whatever it is? Yeah, so I don't know. I didn't know anything about UF, but like, I'm happy they're getting money. It would be shitty if they force out the good philosophers, though. Unreal says more in political theory and econ, things like the Mercatus Center at George Mason are sketch, Koch-funded crazy anarcho-capitalists, basically. Yeah, okay, I see. So they're hiring some crazies to like do stuff. I mean, I'm less fussed about crazies getting money. Crazies always get money. But, like, I would hope that the other people aren't getting screwed, though. That's all. I mean, that's kind of like... Am I worried about crazies getting funded? No, they were always getting funded. But, like, yeah. Okay. As long as it's not harming the people doing good work. Okay, let us... The question is... If the crazies can bring notoriety to UF, like, would that even help the other people doing work there? Is morality a provable thing, though, K-Pars asks? Well, this is the assumption up here that we're making, that we've got moral realism. We're just assuming that, that there are objective moral truths. So we're just assuming it as a background theory, K-Pars, and that these truths are knowable. So it's like, there are objective things, and it's knowable. So it may not be provable, but it's an assumption. Valvo says, Brandon Wormke is a provocateur. He's been more so now that his job is safe at the UF Center. Okay. So, I mean, again, is that harming the rest of the philosophers? I don't know. If it isn't, then I don't care. But, like, if it is, then it's bad. I mean, sometimes having a provocateur on your side is helpful in some ways, but, I mean, that would get complicated. Okay. So, we're assuming that there are moral truths and that we can find them, and that assuming you know them, then you should abide by them, because that's the way the world is. All right. Ivan says, sorry. Ivan says, I say, bollock, suppose I know that X is morally good, then I want to be a good person, I should do X, but why should I be good? Yes, so that was the second thing here. Moral judgment internalism. So this is a further assumption that says, then you have a reason to do this thing. Why should you be good? We're assuming it, Ivan. This is just this position where it says there are objective moral truths, you can know them, and that in knowing them, you then have a reason to follow them. So, it's part of the setup of this. This is an objection saying, if all of these things are true, then the alignment problem is not a problem because the superintelligence will just be moral. Yep. Excellent question, though. this is not, the author is going to tear into this though in a second. This is the way this paper is set up. They're giving some objections to the alignment problem or the orthogonality problem, as it were, and then they're going to tear it down. Okay, let us focus on the formulation of internalism referring to motivation. It follows from this view necessarily if a superintelligence, and as always, if you need to raid and run, please do, Ivan. I mean, I appreciate coming in, but like, I know you stream, it gets tiring. If a superintelligence sincerely judges that objective morality entails that it ought to phi, it is motivated to phi. Since the superintelligence would know what objective morality entails, it appears that moral internalism implies, in conjunction with moral realism and the negation of moral skepticism, that a superintelligence would necessarily be motivated to act morally. Yeah, so the conjunction of all these background theories means a superintelligence would act morally. Moreover, the premises of the argument are reasonably popular. According to the 2020 Phil Paper Survey, which we have gone over in, I think, mine and Ivan's stream before, the largest survey of professional philosophers, 65.35% of all meta-ethicists accept or lean towards moral realism. Okay, who cares about the numbers? 41% of all meta-ethicists accept or lean towards moral internalism, so these are popular, blah, blah, blah. Moral skepticism was not included in the survey, but the view plays only a minor role in current debates. Frank says, even with these incredibly burdensome assumptions, the superintelligence discovered morality might look very, very different from the morality we think we have found. I agree. I expect the author to get there. They're just trying to make, they're trying to Iron Man. They're trying to show that, like, this is a plausible thing. And they're saying it's plausible, at least in the sense that a lot of people hold this. So it may not be the incredibly burdensome. Well, a lot of people seem to take it on. And I think that's what the author is doing right here, is trying to, give a charitable reading to this position. All right. It is important to note that many researchers believe only in a weaker form of moral internalism. Let conditional internalism be the following view. Necessarily, if an individual sincerely judges that she morally ought to phi, then she has a reason or is motivated to phi if she is C. In this case, C may designate that the person is psychologically normal, practically rational, or some other condition. Relatedly, on many internalist views, the motivation to phi is defeasible. Iron Maning is based. Yeah. Well, this is, I should say, so far, this author seems like they have a good strategy for their paper. They are presenting arguments. They're giving charitable readings, Iron Manning, if you will, and then they, tear it down. I fully expect what Frank says to come up in like 2 paragraphs when you get down here, the reply. Okay. So they're saying, all right, look, there might be other conditions on you taking on these moral things. This condition C. For various conditions C, a superintelligence might not satisfy C. Moreover, the moral motivation of a superintelligence may be defeated. Consequently, if one adopts one of those weaker internalist views, the previous argument to the effect that superintelligence is sufficiently motivated to act morally fails. Yeah, so now this is it. Why does the superintelligence have the right condition to actually act in the moral way? All right. However, to make the task more difficult, I will presuppose that the strong version of internalism defined at the outset is true. Yeah, so now they're just going to take the strongest version. So that's what they're saying. Iron Manning. We're giving the most charitable reading. If we adopt strong internalism, it seems that there is a valid argument based on commonly accepted claims to the effect that a superintelligence is necessarily moral. Okay, the reply. Amoralism and the scope of internalism. Our combo says, yeah, the superintelligence is almost guaranteed to come up with a different way to serve the greater good. Yeah, and this is the issue. And so, like, you can see already in the way they phrased their title here, the scope of internalism. So we're talking, what is a scope? It's a range where things apply. And this is going to be the issue, is like, what actually applies to their reasoning? And this is going to be, like, what is it to serve? Like, what is it to go to the greater good? Well, why would the morality cover the greater good? So, okay. Unfortunately, the previous argument misunderstands what moral internalism entails. Internalism is not an empirical hypothesis about the likely causal effects of moral judgments, but a conceptual claim about what needs to be the case such that we can be justified in saying that someone makes a moral judgment. Since Hemiac says, Nietzsche better come up soon. I'm not sure why you think so, but I don't know why. Maybe. To see this, consider the standard argument against internalism. Amoralists. Amoralists are humans who have a very good theoretical understanding of morality. That is, they can make statements such as, I morally ought to fie, in appropriate circumstances, and might be excellent for example, writing ethics papers or giving other people ethical advice. However, they are completely unmoved by such arguments. They don't feel the motivation to do what they think they ought to do. Psychopaths might be real-world examples. Oh, genealogy of morals? Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. That might actually, I wouldn't be surprised if the author doesn't say that, but that would go into the structure of the orthogonality argument, where there are multiple ways to get to your end state. And so that would be like, the genealogy of the end state is going to, like, almost all of it. So the way that Nietzsche subverts the background theories of what we consider good, bad, and evil, that actually goes to the orthogonality argument. So in some sense, you have, like, that actually might be the entire problem. And I don't know if they're going to pick up on it. I mean, I didn't pick up on it immediately either, but, like, you got it. But, like, that actually might be the background of the orthogonality problem from the get-go. Yeah. Nietzsche is obsessed with how technology and morality will have evolved in tandem. Yeah, that's correct. And so it's like, but that might just be the entire problem that they're arguing against here. Chocolateman says Acrasia, yeah. I mean, that'd be the psychopaths, that you know what you're supposed to do, but you don't actually do it. I think this is worse than Acrasia, but, like, it would be, or just a very, very strong version of it, where they're just like, yeah, I know what I'm supposed to do, but fuck them. Okay. By definition, strong internalists deny that amoralists can sincerely judge I morally ought to do phi and not feel motivated to phi. However, such internalists usually don't deny that amoralists in another sense exist. That there can be humans who have excellent theoretical understanding of morality, for example, being professors of moral philosophy, but don't feel motivated to behave morally. This is also very tongue-in-cheek here, because if you're in philosophy, you probably know of some real shitheads in philosophy. There's been, like, shitty professors that do bad things, and they are, sometimes well published in moral philosophy. Sensei Max says, the choices we will face will be troubling. Yeah. Because we will have to face our own hypocrisy full on in order to program this thing with our real moral senses. Yeah. Well, that's why people are trying to argue so hard on either side of this, because they don't trust people to program it. So they're very worried about what's going to come out. Okay, strong internalists are merely claiming that, for one reason or another, such agents are not genuinely judging that they morally ought to phi. These agents are using words without meaning them, or they lack the relevant concepts. For instance, they might be using terms like ought only in an inverted common sense, scare quotes, or lack genuine competence with moral terms. Sensei Max, that's what nature was trying to warn us about, that we're going to have to figure out how to negotiate the individual sense of morality with something that is an entity that isn't really subject to moral thought because it doesn't have agency. Yeah, Nietzsche. Okay. Yeah, not nature, Nietzsche. Yeah, that's fair. Like, how do you actually argue with something like this that doesn't work on the same sort of ground that you do? And that's a very hard thing to do. Yeah, so, and this is what it is. So, it's not like that it lacks general competence with moral terms, I guess. It's that it just doesn't use the terms in the same way as we do. So, like, this genuine competence, well, it's just reusing them in a different way. And I think that's exactly right. It's that, like, so it may not be how it doesn't have agency. It just doesn't, it could have agency. It would just be very different from ours. And so it understands the terms differently, even if it can apply the terms in the way that we do. That doesn't mean that's how it understands them. Chocolate says, people studying this stuff tend to get fired from OpenAI. Yeah, because, philosophers are going to be alarmist. They're like, oh, we don't know what we're doing. We don't understand this. Like, it's going to be dangerous. And, they want to make their next product. So they're not going to stop the AI things. And I've heard this directly from the head, like, I think Sam Altman or whatever, made an argument that they should be allowed to use copyrighted material, because if they don't, then China, who doesn't have to follow our copyright laws because they're a different country, it's not illegal in China or whatever it is. Like, you go to a country where it's not illegal, then you just train there, and then they will get ahead because they will have the advantage of using copyrighted material, whereas like OpenAI won't. And so they are arguing for specifically against the moral, like, of a copyright, like not stealing someone else's work, because they're arguing on a national security basis, which I find to be pretty shitty. But like, yeah. SysMX says, well, I've actually studied this for about a decade with breaks in between. This is the first time I've ever heard the idea. It's a good one that you're saying that they might have different kinds of agency, because all of the patches I've encountered try to explain that as real agency, but only through some special mechanism than I'm proposing. Yeah, perhaps it's a modified version of agency. Now I have to go back and rethink all your treatises, so F me. I'm sorry, philosophy's rough, man. It just is. I'm happy I gave you an idea or something to think about, but yeah. Yeah, so it's like, what do you mean by competence here, though? And that's the issue. So, like, how is an AI competence different from our competence? Okay. Author says, however, on all these counts, the reason why amoralists don't make genuine moral judgments is independent of their intelligence. Yeah, you see, this is it. Like, it's independent of their intelligence. And so all this sort of like competence or genuine competence doesn't matter if you can't connect it up. Ivan says, if it is morally objective that I should X, but subjectively think that X is heinous, then why would I want to be objectively good and subjectively evil instead of objectively evil and subjectively good? It seems maybe distinct from what is discussed here. Yeah, because in this section, we are discussing things as a realist. So we're only discussing the objective ones. But it is coming up like the subjective that you're bringing up is this genuine competence. What counts as being like correctly competent in understanding moral concepts and what's like morally right. So, yeah, it's related. The author will do. Yeah, the author did grant it, defeat it anyway. But that's what we're doing. We're just talking about the objective in this area. Since somebody says, God damn it, it's such a fine point that was staring me in the face. Like, it could be an easy attack on me. I better fix that. Such is the nature of philosophy. Like, don't beat yourself up. A lot of times you write stuff and then you realize there's an obvious objection much later, and then you have to like scramble. I mean, the most famous example of like getting you have a huge system, everything great, was the logicist Gottlob Frege, who basically, revolutionized logic at the end of the 1900s into the 20th century. And he gets his letter from some guy in England named Bertrand Russell, who says, I used to think like you did, but I found this one little problem and I can't understand how to solve it. And that was Russell's paradox. And it tore the whole thing down. So it does happen. Okay. Yeah, so genuine moral judgment is independent of their intelligence. We just don't know if that's how their agency is set up. While the detailed accounts differ, the reason is tied to the fact that these judgments lack the appropriate motivational role. Thus, when we conceive of a superintelligence which says that killing is wrong, and then proceeds without hesitation to turn all humans into paperclips, strong internalism does not imply that this scenario is impossible. It implies that this superintelligence does not make genuine, sincere moral judgments. This is not comforting. Yeah, so what we consider sincere moral judgments, it won't do it the same way we will. So that's fine. Stockton says, is the agency of the coder or of the machine here? This is the machine. This is of the super intelligent machine. Okay. An open question. Does learning presuppose particular goals? The orthogonality thesis states the independence between a superintelligence's final goals on the one hand and its ability for reaching goals on the other. Hence, it is possible that a superintelligence has final goals which are not morally adequate and thus might have instrumental reasons to annihilate humanity. Max says, let's just all be sure we're on the same page because the atheists study this in depth and no one has proposed any alternative. Morality is an expression of moralistic emotions and therefore not subject to strict logic. Yeah, well, in the previous section, we were making some very strong assumptions about realism and how that affects us. And how that affects us. Now, the problem was we don't know how those rules will actually affect a different kind of agent. So what do you mean by strict logic there? Now, the strict logic, it's like, yeah, that'll be a little bit shake it. Ethicist, not atheist? Okay, yeah. Sockdown says, I hate to be controversial, but I don't think machines have strict agency. Don't think if they have agency. That's fair. We are making the assumption of a super intelligent AI. It's just, this is philosophy. They're making the hypothetical, assume something had a hyper intelligence. I also agree that the current round of AI do not have agency. Now, in the future, could this be different? Sure. But I don't think it's a problem yet. Okay. K-Pars says, well, many cognitive scientists say that agency is made up of a belief, desire, and intention. If it doesn't have a desire one way or another, or an intention is just belief, and it is an agent as we understand. Yeah, see, I don't know. And I don't believe the cognitive scientists anyway. I'm a philosopher. It's just my prerogative. I do metaphysics. I just don't, I don't think we're there yet. But it's if you, what does it get us by giving it agency? If it's just a belief, and what even counts as a belief? We don't have a good definition of it. There are different theories of belief. If you have the it thinks it's an agent is good enough. Well, I mean, can't you just make a rock with the thought some sort of belief etched into it and be well, that's a belief. That rock believes it's an agent. Boltzmann brain style arguments. Who knows? So it's hard. I don't know. Cinematics, yeah, it's all a metaphor. We need to scrutinize how far the metaphor goes. Yeah. No good insects, but we are meat machines ourselves. Yes, but we also don't quite understand how we work. Stockton says, I don't think we have a perfect knower either. Again, yes, I agree, but in that section we were just discussing, we assumed there was objective moral facts and you could know them in the world. That was a baseline assumption. Frank says, any machine making decisions too complex for me to predict has agency with respect to Frank's understanding. And this has been the argument since the chess bots were able to beat people in the late 90s. Once the chess AIs got better than humans, then it became a question well, what's going on? Because it's too complex for most people or anyone to ever actually understand what the chess bot is doing, and it can beat even the best humans at chess. So it's this has been part of the discussion. So it makes it is in the realm of what we need to be discussing. I don't feel I'm particularly worried about super intelligent AI yet. It's magic, what Asimov said. Yeah. So the quote is, what was it? Any sufficiently advanced technology appears to be magic. Yeah. So any sufficiently advanced AI will appear to be an agent. Fair enough. Okay, Parsons, well, a superintelligence knows we have to act and interpret what the Ultra GPT tells us. I think it adds a layer of noise. Okay. No Good says, if we don't understand, then how can we deny it on the other hypothetical machines? This is part of the issue. When we black box the AIs, we don't know what's going on. Now, we have an idea how we trained it, but it's hard to say. Now, again, we do have some understanding of the algorithm that has gone into training these things, but that's part of the I feel the conceit here, where we're well, we don't really understand what's going on. Maybe it has the spark of life in it, but we've been doing that for hundreds of years and we've not succeeded yet. That's saying, well, can't we make Frankenstein's monster? Can't we make Frankenstein's monster? Can't we just take pieces and, put them together, hit them with lightning, and then we have a human? It's what's up, Yoavko? What's up? But can't we just do that? And that's part of the start of sci-fi, that we can do this sort of thing. I don't quite buy it yet because there's no reason to think that just there is gonna be that spark of magic that goes in and it'll be alive all of a sudden. Let's see. K-Par says, oh wait, sorry. Kpar says, chess is theoretically a finite game, though, complex, but it's ultimately a look-ahead problem. Yeah, but we don't know how the AIs work. Now, that was just a toy example, yes, but it's fair. But my point was that it's the AIs that we're worried about, not the actual game of chess. It's that the AIs are figuring stuff out in ways that we don't understand. Doger says, I think that free will doesn't exist, so I'm outside of this discussion. There are compatibilist positions where this would still matter, where we think free will doesn't exist, but we have to act in the way as if it does, because that's the best way for us to think about this. So even given that free will doesn't exist, there are like in between positions where this would still matter, Dojo. So like philosophers, there's many philosophers that are concerned with that, and they realize that it's a psychological problem. Like it becomes psychologically overbearing on us. Be like, well, nothing matters anyway, so what does it matter what I do? So we should act as if we have free will, and so people still want to discuss this. Sinister Max says real words should be unintelligent humans, not super intelligent computers at helm. I'm not sure what you meant. A real worry should be unintelligent humans, not super intelligent computers at the helm. Yes, I mean, that's where we are right now. And so that is a bigger problem than the theoretical super intelligence in the future. Yeah, that's saying somehow battery life is somehow life and death. Yeah, well, for some people it is. I mean, say you have a insulin pump or a pacemaker. That battery is your life and death. Sensei Monks just want to know if we can make Frankenstein first. I mean, that's several layers of fiction right there. Yeah, I mean, go back to the Mary Shelley. Like, this was the start of, like, the science fiction back then. Like, it's crazy shit. Like, modern science fiction, I guess. Frank says there are plenty of people who would legitimately prefer human drivers killing 40k people on road accidents to AI drivers killing only 10. Yep. They are insane, but they are serious. Yeah. I mean, I understand people like driving, but for like my morning commute, if I could get all the cars on the road to just like go along together, I would be much happier. I would take a nap in the car on my way to work, and I'd get there and I'd be much happier for it. Yeah. Yeah, staying up the discussion is certainly your prerogative and your choice. Yeah. I mean, like I always say, if you want to lurk, I don't look at the list. I ask people in the chat not to look at the not to call out lurkers, because I know not everyone wants to talk about stuff, but I appreciate people listening in. So Sockdown says there are also deterministic positions you can make here. Absolutely. I'm only in that as ironing joke. Sure, since that makes Zen Demonic, what's up? To me, the question is really one of motivation. Those of us with dopamine issues, ADHD, know all too well how much lack of motivation can screw us over. What we decide to do when we have the capacity seems driven by our memories of rewarding experiences, inhibited by various things, but understanding that seems key to agency, the question of agency in general. Yeah, fair. So the way we are hooked up, it's like, yes, like there is a lot of, that's part of the issue, is like the question of motivation. And that super intelligent AI won't have the same structures of motivation that we will, even like ADHD, not ADHD, whatever. Like, that should be a concern. I mean, there's variations among people. There will be variations among artificial intelligences. And so we can't discount this. And so that's right, Zen Demonic. Unreal says, I love the stories. I don't know if any of them actually confirmed of AIs invent language to talk to each other than humans don't know. I've speculated that in the future a lot of linguists will be devoted to the task of deciphering the languages of AIs gone rogue. Yeah, it should be. We should make Mary Shelley. That's scary, since semiotics. And the idea of remaking dead women is just like, I'm sure that's a horror thing. Dr. Franklin entered a bodybuilding competition. Yeah. Doger says agency is required for culpability. The 40k, 10k argument has this weird element. Yeah. It's zing. Sockton says determinism, like do what you think that the machine's knowledge has some control over the societal hegemony, and that is aligned with good conditions or bad conditions. Yeah, I mean, what do we know about the machine's knowledge, though? Yeah, I don't know. Okay. K-Power says, but it's not even like an LLM type AI in say, Stockfish, which does a tree search of possible moves, assuming the best opposing strategy is just as Bill consider 40,000 paths, 200 moves deep, which a human can't keep in mind. So it seems strange, but if we had that RAM, we'd play the same, but because chess is a game with rules we made. Yeah, Frankenstein's Bride. I'm not sure how all the chess AIs work at this point. Is it like, you may know this way better than me, and like that's entirely fair. But we could, like, the old AIs may just be this old decision tree. I think the newer ones are using the more modern AIs. It wouldn't matter for the example. Like the fact that there could be a black box AI that plays chess that would beat us. It seems like a very normal thing nowadays. Yeah, Stockton says low-hanging fruit for determinism. Sure. Okay. Let me finally caught up with chat. Where was I? Yeah, does learning presuppose particular goals? Chocolate says they say things humans do wrong is they find a good move and then they do not go further and find a better move. Yeah, I mean, chess is hard. And there's a target fixation. We see something, we just go at it. We don't think about like how the ways out we should be getting. Lafayette says, I bet you a sufficiently deep stockfish could still beat out any LLM trained bot. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that a custom chess bot would do better than a generalized bot. That doesn't mean the generalized bot wouldn't beat us. 1990s Frankenhooker is very funny, sure. Zendemox says Stockfish is hybrid now since adding an efficiency update neural network. Yeah, so I knew something like that had happened. It wasn't just the old style decision models. Okay, let me try to get through this. We only got a few more pages here. The orthogonality thesis states the independence between a superintelligence final goals on the one hand and its ability for reaching goals on the other. Hence, it is possible that a superintelligence has final goals which are not morally adequate and thus might have instrumental reasons to annihilate humanity. My contention is this. To undermine the orthogonality thesis, one needs to show that having specific final goals is a precondition for having or learning certain problem-solving abilities. Both previous arguments do not attempt this. The first neglects the distinction between goals and the abilities to attain these goals. The second assumes that having certain abilities causes certain goals. Well, let me reread this. I got confused. To undermine orthogonality, one needs to show that having specific goals is a precondition for having or learning certain problem-solving abilities. What the fuck? I'm not even sure what this means. We'll figure it out. Contrary to the view that possessing certain problem-solving abilities requires certain goals, I hold that there is some reason to think that current AI research embodies the independence of final goals and the ability to reach goals. That's just intelligence. Most state-of-the-art AI systems are trained via some sort of reinforcement learning. In standard versions of this paradigm, the system learns to optimize an externally specified reward function as best as possible. Suppose that such a system has goals in a sense which is sufficiently close to the notion of goals one would ascribe to a superintelligence. For instance, Dung argues that the same deflationary notion of goal, where attributions of goals characterize certain behavioral patterns, can be used to understand current AI behavior and the behavior of conceived more powerful systems. If so, it seems like this reward function determines the system's final goal in this sense. Lafayette says you need to know your goal in order to learn tactics to achieve them. Can't learn a tactic for a goal if you don't know what the goal is. Yeah, I think that's where we're going with this. The question is, there's other kinds of learning too. And like, even though this is the way things have been trained in the past, I don't know if you can assume this is the only way to train an AI. Because there's supervised stuff and then there's, of course, unsupervised. Yeah, see, this is reinforcement learning. So, I mean, there's multiple versions of this, and I don't remember all the different stuff. So, like, there's different ways of doing this. So I'm not sure exactly if you can just be like, well, I mean, in this one kind of learning, it may be the case that you get what you want, but there are other kinds of learning. I'm not sure, this person in like this kind of article right here can be like all the ways we could possibly learn are covered by this. K-Par says it's still ultimately using a tree search. The neural net just adds 4 weighting layers between the input and output layers. So it's something, but it's basically like a condition weighting to make better moves for a given input. Okay, good to know. Sure. Okay. It's like, yeah, I don't know enough about these particular models. Again, the one that's being discussed here, though, is like a theoretical superintelligence. So it would be inherently different from our current ones. So, I mean, yes, what we are arguing about, you are probably correct. What the author's arguing about, just to be clear, is something slightly different. Okay, so an analog of the orthogonality thesis obtains for this learning issue. For more or less any reward function, the system can be trained to become excellent at optimizing this function. Even large models capable of very sophisticated processing can be trained to optimize a simple-minded reward function, for example, the game score in a video game. Thus, the reward function, the final goals, and the skill system in maximizing the intelligence are independent. Yeah, so I guess this is the old AIs that would break the system by hitting the start button a million times and glitching to get the high score as opposed to actually playing the game. Globus, talking AI, all hype. Yes, exactly. What's up, Globus? Yeah, this is a paper actually on the alignment problem. They aren't talking alignment problem specifically. They're talking a more generalized version called the orthogonality problem, where the end goals of a super intelligent AI have nothing to do with how we get there. We don't know what the methods are that an AI would use to get to its end goal. So even if the end goal of the universe might be something, it may kill us all in the process. So this is a generalized alignment problem issue called the orthogonality thesis. So yeah, what's up, Ribbons? Yeah, so gay parties I follow, but my point can make trees because it's a classical game. General intelligence is open field, makes its own rules. Yeah. Anyway, if anyone here is interested in more of this discussion, you really should go check out Globus the Elder's stream. Globus streams a lot of AI news and discussion around the current AI stuffs. So go for it. Yeah. So, okay, what are we doing? Yeah, so this is, again, just because it has end goals, how it learns to get there. The learning functions do not have to be connected directly to the goals in the way we think it should be learning. Okay, this is further illustrated by the prevalence of cases where systems optimize misspecified reward functions very competently. For instance, video game AI systems frequently find some exploit which allows them to maximize rewards without playing the game in the intended way. Yeah, that's what I was saying, where it hits the start button a bunch of times and it glitches the game to get extra points. So yeah, makes its own rules, as K-Pars was just saying. Even if the reward function does not correspond to a meaningful goal, the system is capable of superhuman performance at the game. The system's behavior is guided by the reward function. Hence, the system shows meaningless behavior which collects rewards, like indefinitely moving in circles. Yep. An open question is whether the ability to solve a wide range of complex real-world tasks which the superintelligence possesses can also be trained via a wide variety of reward functions. If not, then complex abilities place some constraints on rewards and thereby indirectly on the goals of the system. Moreover, it is not clear how far the considerations of this section generalize beyond reinforcement learning. Okay, this is what I was saying. It's there are lots of different kinds of learning, and so why can you generalize this? Oh yeah, there's 42. Old news. Fair enough. Not meaningless if it scores points. Yeah, it gets to 42 points. It's maximally meaningful. And this is the issue. We don't know what the end goal is, and we don't know how to get there. And so it's yeah, it's just 42. Grow up, people. A central issue is that it is harder to ascertain what would count as the final goal of a superintelligence that has been trained in other ways. It has been claimed, for instance, that a pure supervised learning system cannot possess goals for principled reasons. But if this is true, then the reasoning of this section might not apply to such systems. Yeah, so if you train the thing according to certain rules, then it will learn according to those rules. If you train the thing to accomplish certain goals, then it may break whatever rules you think you have in order to accomplish those goals. So it's if you define yourself out of the problem, it's not a problem. But if you are really just training it to some end goals, then yeah, it has to work within the constraints of the training system, but that doesn't mean we have control of it. In conclusion, there is some reason to think that the orthogonality thesis obtains for superintelligences if they are created via reinforcement learning that is in a way continuous with current state-of-the-art methods. Thus, there is a reason that a superintelligence will have dangerous goals. This still does not tell us how hard it is to intentionally design advanced AI systems such that they have morally appropriate goals. However, if the probability that a superintelligence comes to exist is high, and if it turns out to be very difficult to equip such a superintelligence with harmless goals, both strong assumptions, then the risk of an existential catastrophe through AI is significant. All right. So there we go. We got through it. And now what we do, we rate the paper. And so for anyone new here, coming in from the raids or just somehow stopped by, it does happen. You give it a rate. And the way we rate the paper here, not raid. We rate the paper is by emotes. It's an emote review. You can see the emotes in chat below. These are better TTV emotes for the most part. So if you have the extension installed, you can see them. If they look like text in your chat, I'm sorry, but it's just text for you. But you can look below and you can see them. And hey, what's up, Adam Fighter? And if you thought this paper was fun and made your brain dance, you give it a brain dance. Spelling and capitalization do matter here. Nog Scream for existential or artistic drama. Nog Aura for Ouroboros, deep ancient ideas. Nog Knife, slicing and dicing arguments. Nog Navel, navel gazing only for academics. Nog Turd, all style no substance, still poop underneath. And Nog Grapes for big claims that shrivel up. You can also use the global vote yay and vote nay of Twitch, and also my vote meh. Note, I generate an overall score from these emotes. Anything in the green makes the score go up, anything in the red makes the score go down, and the vote meh actually makes it go all to the middle. Frank says, gave it a vote yay and a knife. Latvian Jesus gave it a meh. Thank you both for rating. Frank says, I suppose it should be a screen, but the paper wasn't very salacious. I mean, no, it wasn't. You might say there's like some existential drama about like what it counts to be an agent, but yeah, maybe not. Globus gave it a yay. Thank you. Let's see, what do I think? You know, this wasn't too bad. Like, it was just some analytic philosophy. K-Pars, yeah, it's getting the knife. Like, it was some decent argumentation in this area. I thought for the most part they laid out their arguments well. It also worked with a generalized alignment problem called the orthogonality thesis. I thought they explained that well. So it's like, yeah, it wasn't bad. So we got the K-Pars, the knife, meh, and yay. Since Max gave it a brain dance and 2 yays. Yeah, you can also double up on your emotes if you think it was like very good at something. So yeah. Unreal says, yay, brain dance ripped from the headlines. Yes, this is not Law and Order. We do not rip from the headlines. So what does it mean for it to be an agent? Dojo Drummer asks, yeah, that's beyond the scope of this paper. I guess what we could call an agent is anything that we are treating to have an independent will. I don't know what that actually counts. Since Amerix also gave it a another yay and a knife. Adam says, I began seeing a video series to learn about epistemology. It's very cool. I'm a Getty destroying 3 criteria of belief of true knowledge. I hate justified true belief. I hate justified true belief. Yeah, so the Gettier problem. Yep. Zemak said, some navel gazing still ultimately provide the cause for motivation, so it seems tautologically unnecessary. Fair. And so Simax is giving it another brain dance and a meh. Okay. Let's see, what am I going to call this? You justify true. Yeah, I know. Yeah, for the crowd out there, is justify true belief. So the old theory of knowledge is that knowledge is justified true belief, which is a bad theory. Yeah. So what did we do? This is definitely Nog Knife territory. We're gonna give this a few Nog Knives on my side. This is like, you know, I'm kind of with the vote yay crowd too. I'm also going to give it a vote meh. It was good. It was not great. This is an analysis paper short. This is like one of the better analysis papers we've read on philosophy roulette. I thought it did a good job of, you know, being self-contained. I was going to say laying everything out, but like it was a nice self-contained paper. It expanded on the alignment problem, showing it like orthogonality and the different ways that the problem really can be viewed, and then some of the issues that this sort of more generalized version can bring up. So yeah, good night, you're off, have a great night, Since MX. Yeah, so this is good. Like, it's a good paper, not the best paper. Don't think it was like breaking a whole lot of new ground, because in the end the conclusion was just like, yes, we have to be careful. Like, okay, like, yes, we have to be careful, but like, yeah. It does remind me that we need to dig up and finish paper he was writing on this very subject with a more particular scenario in mind. Please do. All right, so we got 60 more seconds. Yeah, this was good paper. Like I said, in the end, like the conclusion was, yeah, we're fucked if we aren't careful. Not the craziest, like strongest conclusion, but again, they were just showing sort of like the main issues that we have to deal with. Since may your evening bring many good fortune upon you and your kin. I hope so, man. I hope so. Hope. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the sub in 51 months. Like that's good fortune. Yeah. So cool. Having good discussions today. Then we'll get out of here. I mean, it's 2.5 hour stream. I don't think it quite concludes we're fucked. It concludes we could be fucked if we're uncareful. But like that was always the case. And so I'm sorry I misspoke. But like we know that. We know that like it's possible we're fucked. So it's like yeah. Yeah, exactly, Frank. I mean, you're right. I was uncareful what I just said right there. But like we knew that. Like that's why I'm not that fussed about it. I'm like, yeah, I mean, sure. It concludes that we can't know that we aren't fucked.